So I know I'm pretty late on reviewing scary stories to tell in the dark, right? It's like a week old. But I've been dealing with somebody or something that's in my house for the last week or so. Let's see if I can get a good look at him here. Okay, I don't know if you can see him, but it's some kind of ghoul. I think it's a ghoul. And it's not like he's violent or angry or anything like that. No, he's just kind of a dick. I mean, he just makes annoying noises and talks to me about stuff I don't really care about. But to pass the time, I usually just hide in my room and pretend like I'm not home, and then he'll usually go next door and bug someone else. So to pass the time, let's just talk about this movie that is out that everyone is saying is actually not bad for a PG-13 horror movie, when in fact it is actually bad for a PG-13 horror movie. Who would have thought?
What's that?
It's her book of scary stories.
PG-13 horror is typically not something that people like to talk about because a lot of times it feels pulled back or restrained to the point of it not being that frightening or disturbing. And I will give this movie credit. It has some chilling moments. There's some really great effects work in this movie. There's some really great monster design in this movie. The movie looks great. It's one of the best looking horror movies I've seen in a while. But the problem is everything else. The problem is mostly the script. The script is atrocious. It's absolutely one of the worst things I have had the displeasure of seeing this year. It's absolutely abysmal. Every line of dialogue was disgusting, vomit-inducing. The general structure of the movie is obnoxiously transparent, and the fact that it is set in the 80s is also obnoxiously transparent. If Stranger Things hasn't ruined modern-day horror, and specifically popular horror, I don't know what else has, because everything seems to be set in the 80s with kids being the main characters, riding bikes, going to libraries to figure things out. A lot of horror seems to be throwing back to the 80s specifically. This movie has every trope and cliche you can imagine from movies of this era. The jocks that are the bullies, that are over-the-top stereotypes. The kids that ride around on bikes. One of them is the comic relief. One of them is the straight man. One of them is the main character, the rational one. Every character is an archetype. Every character is a cliche. Every character is a trope. And everything that happens out of plot convenience. Everything that happens feels like it's just a plot point. There's nothing organic about this movie. There's nothing that moves the story forward in significant ways. It's just, hey, we found this book, and now we need to figure out how to stop the book from doing its thing and killing people. And that's essentially the story, which is boring at best and absolutely mind-numbing at worst. And the ending is absolutely one of the worst endings to a horror movie I think I've seen in a while. There's some cool things going on, but at the end of the day, the way that they get out of their sticky situation is say, hey, I know the truth about you, girl that is possessing this book. We'll tell your story. And then she says, okay. And then it ends. And I wanted to die.
Eat it, Harold.
And it doesn't just end there either. Like I said earlier, there is some legitimately chilling moments in this movie, but I would not classify this movie as frightening or scary or horrifying or disturbing at all. There is some good effects work, there's some good tension building, but the problem is you have to care to be scared. And I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anything except watching what they would do with the camera next. And that doesn't build suspense or tension. What builds suspense and tension is storytelling, is character development, is character work of any kind, and that is completely cut from this movie. There is none. There is literally none at all. There is no story, hardly any. There are just boring tropey characters, so you don't care. And because you don't care, you're not invested in the movie, which means that the suspense doesn't work. So I wouldn't define this movie as scary. I wouldn't define this movie as interesting, or really anything. It's just such a blah horror movie. It's just like looking at beige wallpaper. It's like, oh, it's better than white, but that's about it. So I'd probably give this a 4 out of 10. It's just, there's some things that work, there's some things I like, but it's just not that well written at all. The writing just sucks. It just sucks. Do you think he's gone? Oh yeah, he's gone.